So, hi everyone. We are from Group 6 and our topic for today is labor market wages in perfect competition, which is the chapter 6. So, as I start is may I question you about like factor markets. So, when you hear factor markets, what immediately comes to mind? If your answer is about the four factor of production, such as labor, capital, land, and entrepreneurship, that includes it. So, factor markets are the factor of the production plus the elements of market. Thus means that these four factor of production are actually what is being bought or sold in the factor markets. So, as a recap from chapter 1, we know that labor is the working effort. A working individual put effort in producing goods and services where they receive wages for their effort. Next is the capital. So the capital basically refers to the facilities, equipment, and other resources that aid in the production of goods and services. We also learn that land, which is a ground or the natural resources required in the production. So lastly is the entrepreneurship, which is the ability of one person to see economic opportunities. The entrepreneurship is able to put together land, labor, capital to build out opportunities. So, when a household sell resources, they receive income in return. For the land, income for receive called rental, what is called rental income. For labor, it's wages. For capital, it's interest. And for the entrepreneur, is the income from profit. So, by the way, this title labor market and wages perfect competition. This chapter focuses on the labor market. So we are moving on the next slide. So as I've read learning objectives, after reading and studying this chapter, you should be able to define labor market, identify the determinants of market wage rates, explain why workers have different wages, explain the different concepts like factor markets, efficiency wage, sophomore phenomena, labor market equilibrium, and signal theory. So let's start our topic for the market market for the factor of production. So while in economics largely focus on the markets for goods and services, or what we commonly refers to as output production, there are also markets for the factor of production or input to production. So these dili lang how may in the market we have for goods and services. No, we all know that it is refers as output production. Like for example, a product that can easily use us without a labor. So pwede na to siya mapalit without kibali trabaho ng iba na maano na to siya. Like for example, I buy food. So yon siya is automatic wala siya mag-refer sa mga labor kay bali ato siya effort namin palit nato siya. So ato effort siya na kon, and that what we call output production. So in input production, or what we call factor market, which keep the circular flow of economics activity. So what is factor markets? So in factor market is the economies used for all the resources that business used to purchase, rent, or hire what they need in order to produce goods and services. So this factor market diri na ta maka-hire ng something labor, like for example magpahimo tag balay. So of course dili na to siya mahimo ng ato ra, so we need a labor. So that's what we call factor market. So in next slide, the product market and factor market. So anong pinagkaiba ng dalawa? So a product market is the market for final goods and services, which usually considered to be a consumer product. A factor market on the other hand is for the factor used in the production of a consumer product that's not a good itself. So product market, like for example, in the automobile industry, in the market of automobile or vehicles, it calls the product market, while the market for auto work is the factor market. That is the labor as a factor of production creates the market. So ang katong na example is we have like for example we have automobile na sa, di ba, in our industry we have different kinds of incorporated, like, so example that is automobile. So common na sa ato ang mga, like for example mga sakyanan, so big company gyud yon sila. Amo yan ang matawag nato na product market. So unsa man ang factor market. So ang factor na market na matawag nato sa automobile is ang mga laborer, ang mga trabahante, sila kibali. Like for example na ata sa tig-ayuhay ng mga sakyanan. So kinsa to ang tig-ayuhay sa sakyanan, mao sila ang gitawag na factor market. So in factor market, opposite the market for goods and services, it can be noticed that household and a firm in our circular model are reversed. Household are on the supply side and firm are on the demand side. So in factor market, one of our example is people in household, which is ang mga say matawag yato yan siya, ang mga ato auto workers. So amo siya na word, auto workers. So kibali in our household, so kung ikaw yaong ka sa mga gala ng mga bahay, then ikaw isa ka sa auto workers, which is ginatawag nato na maid. So ang mga maid sub is naga-supply or sell their labor. So ginakuan nila gamit ang ila effort sa pag-labor. So nagadawat ginabaligya nila ang ila trabaho nun, or naga-demand sila or something ana. So now in the labor market, Labor market are usually the best example to represent factor markets, while markets for capital and land also count as factor markets or markets for the factor of production. So, as we all know, no, based on my research, labor market are these are the producer and a consumer meets, no. So kibali mura ni siya palengke na ngadto mag meet ang isa ka producer o isa ka consumer. So kung ikaw amo then ikaw laborer, ngadto ka mo mag-meet and then mag-deal ka mo ng agreement sa labor na iya gi-demand sa imo, and ikaw also na boss, ikaw ang maghatag sa iya ng wages sa iya effort sa. So, a labor market is a market where people offer the skill to employer in exchange for salaries and other form of compensation. So, as we topic earlier, no, ang labor market also as a people, like for example kanina magpahimo lagi siya ng bahay, so kana siya natag-iya is need niya ng mga laborers. So of course ikaw na boss maghatag sab ka ng wages or mga compensation, of course sa iya effort, kay dili mabuo ang imo bahay kung wala sab sila. So this is the end of my report. So our next is Miss Erica Huerta. Thank you.
Hi everyone, I'm Erica Mayvi Huerta, one of the reporters of Group 6. So let's continue the discussion. So labor market equilibrium. The question of why wages and employment go up and down can be analyzed and answered by understanding the labor market equilibrium. It is for a fact that individuals would be more willing to work when the wage is high, while firms prepare to hire when the wage is low. To iron out this conflict, we will discuss labor equilibrium or labor market equilibrium as this will balance this out. Under the labor market equilibrium is labor demand. So it is a demand for labor is simply like a demand for a good. So it generally follows the law of demand. The wage, which is the price of labor, will be plotted in a y-axis of the graph, and the quantity of labor, which can be expressed by the number of employment available in the market, will be plotted in an x-axis. Similar to the law of demand, when the price of labor increases, the related quantity of labor decreases, which makes the relationship inversely related. So this means that employers will hire more people when wages go down. Okay, next is labor supply. As there is a law on labor demand, it only follows that there should also be a supply of labor. Same principle with the law of supply, which says that if the price of labor increases, then the supply of labor will also increase, and vice versa. As wage increases, more people will enter the labor market and compete for higher paying jobs. So, but if the wages decline, people looking for jobs who prepare to get high wages will be less, making them no longer interested in competing. So when the labor demand and supply meet at a certain wage and quantity of workers, equilibrium takes place. So this point of equilibrium is called the market cleaning, wherein firms may hire an employee at the existing wage rate, and people who would like to have that wage rate would be able to do so. However, as this is a competitive labor market, even though there is a market clearing identified, employers and employees may leave the labor market as they may want to pay lower wages or firm and earn higher wages or workers. So next is what determines market wage rates. So a basic principle of economics is the notion that the price or value of goods, services, and even resources such as labor is determined by the behavior of demand and supply. Usually, it is the call of the firm to set wages and offer a competitive package, as this can have an effect on the workers' motivation and retention, ultimately benefiting the company. Okay, so several efficiency wage mechanism or models are the following where companies can benefit from. So first is higher wages, improve worker morale and effort. Second is higher wages reduce worker resignation and labor turnover cost. So the last one is higher wages attract more applicants. So next is equilibrium wages. When jobs are easy and safe, we can assume that the wages are on average and most people would want to have such jobs. When the job tends to become difficult and dangerous, workers would naturally require a higher wage in order to perform such a job. This compensating differential is a difference in wages that arises to offset the non-monetary characteristic of different jobs. So people who work in coal mines or work in graveyard shifts would tend to receive a compensating differential to compensate for the unpleasant nature of the job.
Now that we are done talking about equilibrium wages and how to allocate equilibrium in competitive labor market, now we're going to tackle about factors that explain productivity and wages. Why do workers earn different equilibrium wages? So from the title itself, we're going to learn what is the difference of the equilibrium based on wages on based on personal experiences, physical attributes, and your benefits about it. So first, we're gonna talk about education experience. So it is very evident in this status quo that those who are graduates with degree or in college graduate has a more benefits in terms of wages in the work in works. So it states that individual's ability to earn or perform useful services can be highlighted by his training. So it depends on your experience or your background for you to earn more wage. So now let's talk again naman in human capital investment. So in this time, it is based on your endeavors kung which can augment individuals' earnings. So it depends on your endeavors or your where you invest in your money, such as in your education. As you invest in education, so it means that your wage is also growing, right? So now let's go to natural ability. So from the word itself, natural ability, it based on your intelligence. When people saw or when the employer saw that you are higher above the norm, so maybe you are more qualified to have that kind of wage prior to other workers. Then next is human capital view of educational signals. So companies usually view to the education of an individual so that they can select or reflect on on their work, such as if that person is a graduate with a degree or that person is just only a undergrad undergrad without degree. So in that case, probably they're gonna choose that person who has a degree, for they can see natural ability, the the educational signal. They want to see the educational background of a person. The next is the signaling theory. So it is stated that since it is very difficult to earn a college degree, so the graduates are then perceived to be highly capable. So since it is given that having a degree is very difficult and it is very challenging to have it or to gain it, so it is a signal to the employers that those who have a degree is usually have to gain more wage, no, more salary to have. So as I said earlier, it is better for you to have a degree before you go to work. For if you are a college graduate, more benefits for you or more chances of you to go to a company or to be hired by a company with wages prior or higher than anybody. So now I'm gonna show you a graph showing the equilibrium wage difference based on work, such as this. On panel A, it shows the labor services of an office clerk. Then on panel B, it is a labor services of a mechanical engineers. So as you can see in the office clerk in the panel A, the labor and the work is not that so low, not that so high. So the demand and supply is in this above or below average lang po. Unlike to the panel B in the mechanical engineers, it shows how high the demand or the supply or the equilibrium itself. So as you can see though, as two different jobs, the office clerk and the mechanical engineers, so it is also different. It shows also the equilibrium, the different kinds of equilibrium based on wages of these two individuals, the panel A and the panel B. So that's it for my discussion. So let's go to the next reporter. So thank you. Hope that you understand and try to approach us if you have queries, qualifications, or something that you are in vague. So that's all. Thank you.
And now, let's proceed to the next topic, the superstar phenomenon. Superstar phenomenon are those performers who earn huge amount of compensation. This phenomenon suggests that only individuals who are highly sought after or admired by a large crowd earn huge amount of money, thus making them very important in the world. There are two characteristics that patronize the rise of superstars. First is individuals who want to enjoy the good provided by the best producer. Second is the good is produced with a technology that makes it possible for the best producer to supply at a low cost. People patronize these superstars because they want to see them, for they provide good entertainment. Unemployment, it is an issue in microeconomics. It would help to touch its concept in microeconomics, given that firms require labor and individuals, workers supply them. It is a byproduct of micro-level decisions of the workers and the firms. So when people are employed, the living conditions are raised, as well as output productivity. So unemployment rate is measured by number of employment divided by labor force times 100 is equal to unemployment rate. Unemployed is someone who does not have a job but willing to work and looking for a job. Labor force is the number of working adults of age who are able and willing to work. A good employment rate in economy signals healthy economic activity in a country. Next is the efficiency wage theory. Karl Shapiro and Joseph Stiglitz are economists who developed the efficiency wage theory, or also called Shapiro-Stiglitz theory. This theory posits that an employer must pay its workers high enough so that workers are incentivized to be productive and that highly skilled workers do not quit. It also explains that it would be beneficial for firms to pay workers above the equilibrium wage rate to encourage the workers to work more efficiently and make more profit firm. And also, the efficiency wages are wages greater than the market clearing wages introduced by Alfred Marshall to denote wage per efficiency of labor. Next is earnings and discrimination. This section aims to examine and explain all these situations as we take in an interesting look about earning and discrimination. And the neoclassical theory argues that wages depend on the supply and demand for labor and that labor demand depends on the value of the marginal productivity of labor.